Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Good morning. This is Debbie Royce, Empire State Development's Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's meeting. And before we formally begin, I would ask that everyone please mute your line until you're speaking. As we have our directors joining this morning by video, we'll do a quick roll call before we get started. Hope Knight, Acting Commissioner of the Department of Economic Development.
Present.
Kevin Eunice as the designee for the Acting Commissioner.
Present.
Howard Zemsky.
Present.
Eric Gertler.
Present.
Cesar Perales.
Present.
Michael Rosen.
Present.
And Benson Martin, designee for Acting Superintendent of the Department of Financial Services, Adrian Harris.
Present.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today. And Acting Chair Eunice, you can begin.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Before I call this meeting to order, I will note for the record that I will briefly serve as the acting chair for today's meeting before handing things off to Hope Knight. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, DBA Empire State Development, for Thursday, November 18th, 2021. I'd like to ask everyone to please mute your audio until you are ready to speak. Also, anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin so that you can be identified for folks joining us via teleconference. I'd also like to note for the record that in accordance with recently passed legislation, this meeting will be conducted by video and teleconference. I also note for the record that the public was given opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by noon yesterday. State for the record that 10 comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda item 5A relating to the World Trade Center and Cultural Program Land Use Improvement and Civic Project. These comments were shared with the directors and are posted to today's meeting page on ESD's website and will become part of the corporate record of today's meeting. As always, the directors have received written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. At this time, I will ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. If so, I would please ask that you make an appropriate disclosure on the record, and we will remind you to recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such item or items. All right, hearing none. The first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes for October 21st, 2021 Directors Meeting. Again, reminding everybody to state your names before speaking. Are there questions, comments, additions, or deletions with regard to this item?
It's Howard, I'll move the minutes.
All right. Do I got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. It is my pleasure to now ask the directors to approve the appointment of Hope Knight as an officer of the corporation, specifically its president and chief executive officer designate. Governor Hochul announced the appointment of Hope as president and CEO designate and her plan to nominate her to that position last month. Hope will also be nominated to serve as commissioner of the New York State Department of Economic Development, which also requires Senate confirmation. Hope most recently served as president and CEO of the Greater Jamaica Development Corporation since 2015. In that capacity, she advanced the economic growth and community building and sustainable real estate development that revitalized and strengthened the Southeast Queens region. Prior to leading GJDC, she was chief operating officer of the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, overseeing over $150 million in investments and leveraging $1 billion in private capital, and working on such projects as the East River Plaza, Potamkin East Harlem, and the Victoria Theater and Hotel. For the past 6 years, Hope served on the New York City Planning Commission. She also served as vice president of Morgan Stanley in the Institutional Equities Division, U.S., and as vice president of strategic planning and e-commerce, Morgan Stanley, Japan. Earlier in her career, Hope worked at Accenture and in New York City government. She served on a number of boards, including the Regional Plan Association, True Front Financial, Grameen America, Morgan Stanley Community Development Advisory Board, East Harlem Tutorial Program, and Jack and Jill America Foundation. She's also the immediate past chair of the Board of Trustees of Marymount Manhattan College and was a member of ABNY's 2020 Census Organizing Action Committee. She holds a BA from Marymount Manhattan College and an MBA from the Graduate School of Business at the University of Chicago. The directors are requested to appoint Hope Knight to the office of President and CEO Designate effective as of November 15th, 2021. Confirm that she is an officer of the corporation within the meaning of the bylaws of the corporation, including indemnification provisions thereof, and ratify any and all actions heretofore taken in such capacity. Are there any questions or comments from the directors? All right.
We're excited to have you, Hope, and thank you for joining ESD. It's a good day.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
I just echo Howard's comments that Howard was in the role before me. It was one of the great privileges of my life, and I hope it's the same for you, Hope. I wish you much success. I wish you all good things, and you have a great organization with a great mission and a great team. So
Thank you.
I think you'll have a fantastic time.
do want
While
to express my congratulations. Look forward to working with you, Hope.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
While I'm still empowered to make such comments, I would say I've had the good fortune to work with Hope over the last few days. I like to think of myself as a pretty good judge of character, and I'm really excited about Hope being here, and I think she's going to really do great in this position. So I'm excited to have you and welcome and congratulations. All right. As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item, and I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. The motion carries. Congratulations, Hope. I will now turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. And before continuing with our agenda, I'd like to take a moment to share some remarks. Good morning, directors, and it is an honor and a privilege for me to join you today, albeit virtually, for my first board meeting in this capacity. I'd like to begin by thanking Governor Kathy Hochul for the opportunity to lead ESD and to work together with my fellow board members to promote economic growth across New York State during this very critical time. For more than 6 years, I served as the president and CEO of the Greater Jamaica Development Corporation, promoting community building efforts and projects that generate sustainable economic growth. And as Kevin said before that, I worked for the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone for 12 years as Chief Operating Officer, working on transformational projects like Potamkin, East Harlem, the Victoria Theater and Hotel, and East River Plaza. I also served on the New York City Planning Commission and worked in the private sector. While the professional experience that I bring to this job has been mostly downstate, it has been focused in places that have been historically underserved and under-resourced, like Jamaica and Upper Manhattan, and that is not a uniquely downstate issue. While there is no one-size-fits-all approach to economic development, I believe in community empowerment where state and local government collaborate with stakeholders to encourage new investments and create jobs. In many ways, it's an extension of the efforts already underway through the state's Regional Economic Development Council initiative. While this is my first week, I think I've hit the ground running, meeting with the leadership team and having conversations with ESD staff. Those conversations will continue across the organization, and in coming weeks, I plan to travel the state to visit our regional offices and tour some of the projects underway. There is something to be said for first impressions. Needless to say, I'm very proud of the opportunity to lead ESD and to work with such a group of talented professionals. ESD has a well-earned reputation across both the public and private sectors for its effectiveness and ability to get things done on behalf of the people of New York. That is due in large part to the smart, capable, hardworking people who serve here and whom I am now honored to call colleagues. I look forward to working together to build a stronger New York State. There are many great things happening in the state right now, made possible by the efforts of ESD, and so many more to come. So in closing, I'd like to thank the staff of ESD for their commitment to the people of New York State. I'm grateful for the work that you do day in and day out to keep the economic engine of the state running. I'd also like to acknowledge Kevin Eunice for his warm welcome to me and keen guidance. In the past few months, Kevin has taken on responsibilities of the Commissioner's office in addition to his own professional obligation. Kevin wears many hats here at ESD, but I appreciate him being a strong right hand as I begin my tenure. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you again to my fellow directors. I'm excited to work together and draw on our collective experience, along with Chairman nominee Kevin Law, to continue advancing economic growth across New York State. And finally, I want to thank one member of the ESD team in particular, Pravina Raghavan, Unfortunately for me, Pravina is leaving just as I'm starting, but she is going to be an enormous asset to us from her new position as Director of the Hollingsworth Manufacturing Extension Partnership at the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Washington, D.C., where she will be supporting and rebuilding the advanced manufacturing sector across the United States. Pravina and her team have done extraordinary work helping small businesses and those companies who were particularly impacted by the pandemic. We wish her well on her return to federal service. And thank you. And so now I will ask Pravina Raghavan, ESD's Executive Vice President of the Division of Small Business and Technology, to provide us with a status report of the COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery Program. Pravina, when you're ready, please begin.
Thank you very much, and thank you for those kind words, and welcome to ESD. I can speak for my team. We're very excited to have you on board with your vast economic development experience and helping especially low, moderate income areas really start to be part of the community. So thank you very much. This is my final report to the board. Last month, I had come to talk about the pandemic grant program. As you know, we reported we had 11,955 grants for $190 million last month. I'm proud to announce we have over 20,888 grants dispersed for $353 million, which is a 43% increase in the number of grants in the last month. And we are continuing to process grants every day. Several areas of the focus of the program. We were supposed to support businesses that did not get any or very little federal assistance, and micro businesses in particular, businesses that employ 10 or less employees. 98.8% of the grants have gone to micro businesses. We're supposed to support socially and economically disadvantaged businesses, which include veteran-owned and disabled-owned businesses owners, and 7% of those grants have gone to socially and economically disadvantaged individual business owners. And then finally, MWBEs, 83% of the grants have gone to MWBEs. We've received over 118 applications, but only 42,000 are valid, have actually submitted valid applications. We have a lot of applications that people just started in the system and never continued, which means they never finished the questionnaire or they never supported the documents. We continue to do outreach to those individuals to make sure that if they needed help, they can use our vast technical assistance partners, the 69 centers that we have going around. And just as a reminder, they've helped already about 20,000 businesses go through this process and have done logged in over 15,000 phone calls. So they're working very hard to make sure that we really get those micro and the smallest of the small. On August 25th, Governor Hochul announced the eligibility expansion of the program, which increased gross receipts up to $2.5 million, and businesses that received less than $250,000 in PPP were eligible for the grants. Just to give you an idea, we've received over 3,400 applications from these larger small businesses, and 2,087 of them have been funded for $103 million. So they are going at a 60% approval rate, which we expected because these are businesses that tend to have more accountants and legal services at their fingertips, so can be able to file the documents quite quickly. Again, on November 8th, Governor Hochul announced plans to introduce legislation in January 2020 to the legislative session to create a $200 million program designed to support businesses that started during the pandemic or just prior to the pandemic. As a recollection, the grant is eligible for businesses that were in business prior to the pandemic, so prior to March 1st, 2019. This is actually looking for businesses that started after March 1st, 2019. The Forward Look initiative will be part of the $800 million. There's nothing to report at this time. We're still working through all the details, but that will be something in January that will become announced, working with the legislature. So the team continues, and we continue to get this critical grant funding to support small businesses through the recovery. And we appreciate everybody's help in getting the word out to more small businesses. We continue to be in our digital campaign and have ads going on, but we really are looking to make sure that if any business did not get any help from the federal government and is still looking for support, to come to us, and we have still funding available. And on a personal note, I just want to thank everyone at ESD and particularly on this board for their partnership and support during my tenure at ESD. It has been an amazing ride, and this last $800 million and another $500 million from the feds for SSD Sky has been an amazing time to be able to work with my team. And I want to thank my small business team. They have been phenomenal, in particular, Ray Salabarius, Martha Tora, Matt Watson, and Jennifer Teagan, who work closely with me every day, supporting the 30 programs that we at ESD provide to small businesses. They're amazing public servants and very dedicated in assisting and growing the small businesses in the great state of New York. And I know my team it will continue to do their amazing efforts after my departure. But I will be working with some of them with MEP, so I look forward to helping to support New York State as a federal employee. So I'm happy to take questions on anything, either topic. Thank you.
Pravina, it's Eric. I want to wish you much success in your new role, and and thank you and recognize you for all the accomplishments you had. It was a real privilege to work with you, and if the past is prologue, I know you'll do some great stuff in Washington. So thank you for your service.
Thanks.
Most people don't know this, but I when I was at ESD, we kept the position of head of small business open for a year because we couldn't find anybody who was any remotely as qualified as Pravina, and I would just call her every 2 months. I think around the 6th time I called in 14 months in, we finally accepted, but she's been an amazing asset for ESD over her years there. And I just want to recognize her for her accomplishments. We continue to expand her portfolio over time. And thank you for that, Pravina. And I know you'll do great in your new position. And I'm glad that you'll continue to work collaboratively with ESD.
Thank you. I'll turn it back to you, Hope.
Thank you for your report, Pravina, and thank you for your service. We will now move to the project section of today's agenda. Regional directors and program staff are on the line with us today to present their items and to answer any related questions. Vinny Exposito will start things off with an item from our Finger Lakes region. Vinny, when you're ready, please begin.
Good morning, Hope. Welcome aboard and congratulations. Look forward to working with you and hosting you here in Rochester, where I'm based as the Finger Lakes Regional Director. I'd also like to thank Pravina as well. I didn't realize we had to beg her that much, Howard, to get her on board, but it's been a real pleasure working with you, and we're going to miss you. Today it's my privilege to bring one item for the Director's consideration. It's a $700,000 capital grant from the Upstate Revitalization Initiative for Optimax Systems to support the construction and expansion of their facility in the town of Ontario in Wayne County, where they produce high-precision optical lenses that are primarily used in the semiconductor, defense, medical, and aerospace industries. And optics, photonics, and imaging is one of the key strategic industry sectors for the Finger Lakes Rochester region. The company purchased an adjacent property and constructed a 47,000 square foot expansion, which doubled its capacity to create space for more coating machines and equipment. They spent more than $10 million on machinery and equipment. The project in total was over $22 million. It was completed this September. It created and has already created 59 jobs. And in addition to our $700,000 URI grant, there was an Excelsior tax credit incentive worth $1.5 million. I'd be happy to take any questions on this project.
I'd like to remind everyone to state your names before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2A as presented by Vinny Exposito? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson Martin.
Second?
Second, Eric Gertler.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We will now have Jim Fail and Steve Gorelick, who will present 3 items from our Central New York region. Once Jim provides the presentations on the first 2 items, we will take separate votes on each of those items, and then we will call on Steve to present the 3rd item. Jim, when you're ready to begin with Nick's Ride for Friends capital project.
Thank you, and welcome aboard, Hope, and I look forward to working with you. The board is being asked to approve a $931,801 grant on a $1.6 million project. This is a downtown revitalization initiative round 3 project for Nick's for Ride. This project is focused on rehabbing a 3-story structure in Auburn, New York, to house a comprehensive recovery, treatment, and healthcare services. This will allow the organization to increase its capacity from 20 people to 75 people. This project was completed in August of 2021. The next project that I'm presenting is a Round 9 Regional Council project, and it's for United Auto Supply so that they can construct a 100,000 square foot warehouse distribution center. This will lead to the hiring of 50 new people, as well as retaining their current employment of $399. It's a $1 million grant on an $11.8 million project, and there's also $797,000 in Excelsior tax credits associated with this project. And it was completed also in August of 2021. And I would be glad to take any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to please state your names before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on either of these 2 items? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to these items. I will now entertain a motion for the approval of item 2B, Nick's Ride for Friends capital project, as presented by Jim Fail.
Benson Martin, so moved.
Second?
Cesar Perales will second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. I will now entertain a motion to approve item 2C, UAS capital project, also presented by Jim Fail.
Michael Rosen moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. And now Steve Gorelick will present the 3rd item from our Central New York region. Steve, when you're ready, please begin.
Thank you. This is an unusual item to the directors, as staff are recommending that the project and the grant not be approved by the board. The proposed grant is to Core Venner Ransler Street Company 3 LLC for a project involving the construction of 2 mixed-use buildings in the city of Syracuse that are part of the redevelopment of Syracuse's Inner Harbor. Just a little bit of background. In July of 2015, Core applied for a grant through the Consolidated Funding Application. The CFA was reviewed by the Central New York Regional Economic Development Council and was recommended for funding. In April 2016, an incentive proposal was executed between Core and ESD to move the project forward. The matter was going to be presented to the ESD board back in July of 2016, but prior to that, ESD was served a subpoena from the United States Department of Justice asking for documents that included Core and any of its subsidiaries or affiliated companies. As a result, the staff did not move the project item forward. Ultimately, 2 individuals of Core were indicted and convicted after 2 separate jury trials of various federal felonies. One of the persons convicted was Joseph Girardi, who signed the application, and the other was Steve Aiello, the president of Core, who executed the incentive proposal. The underlying facts of those 2 proceedings both involve ESD grant-funded projects. In one, Aiello was convicted of paying an aide to the governor's office to induce him, New Pressure ESD, to reverse a previous decision that affected funding for a core project that was part of the redevelopment of the Syracuse Inner Harbor. The project before the board today is also part of that larger Inner Harbor project. In the second criminal proceeding, Girardi and Aiello were convicted of bid rigging that allowed them to be named as preferred developers for projects in Syracuse. As a result, Core Development was selected to build two projects that were funded by state grants, including ESD funding that was previously approved by this board. Core completed the current project and then made a request to ESD that it be funded. Staff did not move the matter forward for consideration. Core ultimately sued, and as a result of a court decision, ESD was ordered to place the matter on the ESD board agenda for consideration. In compliance with that order, we are moving the matter for consideration. The materials lay out the staff recommendations, which we believe each constitute an independent basis for denial of the project. But in sum, it's the failure to meet the responsibility provisions of Executive Order 192, as well as the representations made by Core in its application for funding that include that no senior manager or principal of Core has ever been charged or convicted of a felony. This is an ongoing program requirement that Core cannot meet. The second reason is that by the terms of the IP, it expired. The third is that there were material changes in circumstances in the project with respect to the ownership of Core when Girardi and Aiello transferred their ownership interests after they became convicted felons. And the last one is the failure to comply with the provisions of the IP, which required that the grant be paid out during the construction of the project. This is important since it deprived ESD of any oversight, especially considering the cloud this project was under from the beginning. Based on the foregoing, staff recommend that the grant not be approved. However, if the board believes that the project should move forward, and I would point out that included in the materials to the board are Core's submission of why it should be approved. If the board is inclined to move it forward, the board should adopt the general project plan and make the required environmental findings as laid out in the materials, and staff will move the project forward through the normal process. Thank you, and I will answer any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to please state your names before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the director with regards to item 2D as presented by Steve Burley? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for disapproval.
Well, can we just be clear that it's approval? The motion is not to approve the project and not to approve the grants in accordance with the resolutions that were submitted to the board. Just to be clear on what the vote is.
Yes. Okay.
So sorry, it's Howard. So if we adopt the resolution affirmatively, it is a vote to not approve it.
That's correct. You're voting not to approve the project in accordance with the resolutions that were submitted to the board. But again, that's the board's prerogative. It could make a different decision based and not follow the staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
So I will entertain the motion to adopt the resolution not to approve the project.
As submitted in the draft materials.
As submitted in the draft materials. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Benson Martin, so moved.
Second.
Cesar Perales, seconds it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Steve Hunt will now present an item from our North Country region. Steve, when you're ready, please begin.
Good morning, Ms. Knight and board members. I'll be presenting one project from the North Country awarded a Regional Council capital grant. We are seeking board authorization to release $500,000 to the town of Orleans for a portion of a $15.4 million project to construct a new water treatment facility, a new low-profile water storage tank, and installation of a new distribution system for a portion of the town in Jefferson County. As part of the financing, Environmental Facilities Corporation provided a loan in the amount of $7 million for the project, and the town invested $7.8 million of its equity in the new facility. In addition to providing an adequate drinking water source to designated areas within the town, along with New York State Route 12 corridor and riverfront communities, the project will help protect existing agricultural and commercial development and incentivize new investments along the corridor. The project is consistent with the North Country REDC goal of improving infrastructure throughout the region, both to protect the region's clean water resources and to support community development. The town has made the investment and the project is complete. Upon satisfying its obligations under the incentive proposal, ESD is recommending that the board authorize the release of $500,000 for this project.
I'd like to remind everyone to state your names before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2E as presented by Steve Hunt? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
It's Howard Zemsky, a motion to approve.
Eric
Second.
Bertler, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Mike Evoli will now present an item from our capital region. Mike, when you're ready.
Thank you and good morning. Today, I'm requesting the directors approve a $1 million regional council capital grant to Queens Recycling Center, LLC, doing business as Queens Industrial Park for a portion of the cost associated with the construction of a new 74,000 square foot barge repair facility, creating a unique indoor barge repair facility, intermodal distribution center, and training facility in the town of Queens, Albany County. The total project cost is just over $10,700,000. Queens Industrial Park was formed in 2012 and is a member of the Carver Company family, which was formed in 1989. Queens Industrial Park provides built-to-suit warehouse and industrial facilities at and adjacent to the Port of Queens. The recently completed marine barge repair facility can accommodate up to 4 900-ton barges in a climate-controlled environment, allowing maintenance to occur year-round. This facility has heated floors, roll-up doors across the front to help increase efficiency of welding and other necessary repair operations. The new facility is also going to operate as a state-of-the-art intermodal distribution center and will be utilized as a skilled labor training center. Carver Family Company has a total of 417 employees in New York, most of which are located here at the Port of Queens. Since the signing of the contract, Carver Companies has hired 126 people, 69 of which are in direct support of the barge repair facility. So this puts the grantee at the second contract threshold, which will allow the first 2 payments to come. They've met the spending requirement. In fact, they've exceeded it. They've spent, in fact, over $12 million when you include the equipment. And the final payment will be held until they reach the total number of 80 committed jobs. The project aligns with the REDC's Gateway strategy, designed to connect our regions to other markets and vice versa. This strategy relies heavily on investments in our port facilities, of which we have 2, and we feel have been critical to helping secure significant announcements recently related to offshore wind deployment. The most recent of which was on October 8th. Lieutenant Governor Benjamin and Kevin Eunice both attended an event at the Port of Queens, announcing Sunrise Offshore, announcing an aspect of the project related to Sunrise Wind's offshore deployment, which will involve an $86 million contract at this facility. So these facilities, these repair facilities, are critical to moving goods along the Hudson River and eventually overseas or in deployment offshore.
I'd like to remind everyone to please state your names before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2F as presented by Mike Evoli? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Benson Martin, so moved.
Second.
Michael Rosen, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Kara Longworth will now present an item from our Long Island region. Kara, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope, and good morning, directors. This morning, I'm asking the directors to approve a regional council grant of up to $1,340,000 to the town of Riverhead to pay for a portion of the cost and design of an upgraded sewage treatment plant in Calverton, which is in Suffolk County. The project is complete for a total project cost of just under $10.9 million. This was a round 3 priority project for the regional council. This upgraded sewage treatment plant and a relocated discharge outflow was a critical and necessary infrastructure project for the future reuse and redevelopment of a former Naval Weapons Industrial Reserve plant, which is now referred to as Enterprise Park at Calverton, or for short, EPCAL. This site was a 2,900 acre site owned by the Navy, which was leased to Grumman, and it operated as a final assembly and testing for military planes since the 1950s. The town of Riverhead acquired the property from the federal government in 1998 with the requirement that it be used for economic development purposes to replace the lost defense jobs. The state's been working for the last the town has been working for the last 2 decades to redevelop the site. To use the site for industrial use, the town needed to construct a larger wastewater treatment plant and relocate the discharge away from the estuary to satisfy the DEC requirements, as well as the county health department for any proposed future development. The new plant can now handle 150,000 gallons of sewage a day and discharges away from the nearby estuary, reducing the nitrogen levels, which is a consistent problem on Long Island. The town is currently under contract to sell 600 acres to a developer that will be required to build up to 1 million square feet of industrial space. 500 of the acres are already developed, with several companies are already operating there, several of which have received ESD funding to expand. The project was completed in June, and the grant's ready for disbursement. Happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to please state your names before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2G as presented by Kara Longworth? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Howard Zemsky, motion to approve.
Second.
Eric Gertler, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next, we will have an at the direction of grant item, which will be presented by Simone Bethune. Simone, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning to everyone. My name is Simone Bethune. I'm a senior project manager in the Loans and Grants Department. Today, the directors are being asked to approve a modification to a $5,303,374 grant originally approved on October 17, 2013, and authorized in the fiscal year 2011-2012 New York State budget. The funding was made available by the Executive Chamber from the Local Assistance Special Appropriation Hurricane Irene Program in conjunction with the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services Disaster Assistance Program for flood mitigation and flood control projects in the Schoharie County, Mohawk Valley region. The requested modification involves 3 amendments to the original project plan, the first of which would add $4,150,000 in funding to the original grant, making the total award $9,453,374. The second amendment the directors are being asked to approve is to permit modification to the project scope, which will expand work to include stream bank and stream channel stabilization, floodplain restoration, and corrective action work to repair or correct initial restoration work to reduce future flooding and protect evacuation routes in the project locations of Little Schoharie, Line Creek, and Platter Kill. These locations were severely damaged by flooding in 2011 from Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. Flood damage included major stream bank erosion and instability, stream channel degradation, and water quality degradation. Finally, the directors are being asked to approve a modification to the project investment, which is now expected to increase to $41.9 million from the original $23.9 million total project cost. The completion date for the Little Schoharie Creek project phase is December 2022. Post-construction monitoring and maintenance will run through December 2027. For the Line Creek and the Platter Kill project phases, construction will be completed by December 2023, and post-construction monitoring and maintenance will run through December 2028. And I can take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 3A as presented by Simone Bethune? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion to approve.
Benson Martin, so moved.
I will second Cesar Perales.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next, we have two New York Ventures investment items, which will be presented by Jonathan Green and Momo B. After both investments are presented, we will take a vote on each item. Jonathan, please begin with the investment in Ecoletro, Inc.
Thank you, Hope, and welcome to the ESD team. And really quickly, I just wanted to extend my personal thanks to Pravina for her leadership in running our division. You will be missed, but I'm sure we will find someone to lead our team with equal leadership and humor. The directors are being asked to approve an investment of up to $500,000 into a Series A preferred equity round in Ecoletro. Proceeds from this financing will be used to continue to increase their team in Ithaca, New York, transition into a pilot scale processing facility, and finalize testing for key customers. Ecoletro is an Ithaca-based innovator of disruptive, low-cost, high-performance polymers for electrochemical applications. The company is developing an alkaline exchange ionomer-based membrane technology, which is a key product used in the production of green hydrogen. Current membrane technology requires the use of expensive and scarce materials such as platinum, severely impacting the economics of green hydrogen production, as well as the potential to meet the needs of the U.S. at projected scale production. Ecoletro's patented and patent-pending products are made with commonly available metals such as aluminum and have a longer lifetime and are more manufacturable as a drop-in replacement for existing electrolysis units. Ecoletro was founded by two Cornell-trained PhDs, and its founding intellectual property was based on research performed at Cornell University. The company's research and development facility is located in Ithaca, New York, where they have a team of 7 individuals currently producing membranes for customers. The company previously raised $3.85 million in grants and $1.7 million in private capital. Again, we are requesting a $500,000 investment into a Series A preferred equity round in Ecoletro.
And Momo, you can make your presentation as well, and then we will talk about the two investments after.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning, directors. My name is Momo B. I am a senior director on the New York Ventures team. The directors are being asked to approve up to $1 million investment in an up to $4 million safe financing round into a company called Wesper. Wesper is a Cornell Tech Neon runway company that provides seamless and accurate sleep health technology using wearable electronics hardware and machine learning algorithm user interface software for consumers and healthcare providers. According to Cleveland Clinic, about 70 million Americans suffer from sleep disorders. Typical sleep disorders include insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, and narcolepsy. Another study by the National Sleep Foundation indicated that nearly 7 out of every 10 Americans say they experience frequent sleep problems. Sleep disorders could cause various mild, serious, or fatal health and safety issues. Based on the 2020 data, sleep disorders cost the United States over $411 billion annually. Yet there are less than 5,000 sleep centers and labs in the United States. Patients usually must wait for weeks to go to a sleep lab and must sleep at the lab for at least 1 to 2 nights. It's inefficient, costly, and uncomfortable. In order to solve this problem, Wesper has developed smart patches for accurate and comprehensive sleep tests at home. The Bluetooth-enabled wireless rechargeable patches collect data from 8 precise channels to provide data that has 94% accuracy compared with traditional sleep labs and allows for sleep lab technicians and physicians to provide analysis and ongoing health coaching. The company's management team is composed of industry experts and thought leaders. The company has made significant progress in both product development and talent acquisition. In order to fund its activities over the next 8 to 12 months to raise Series A funding, the company is now raising a $4 million financing. New York Ventures team will invest up to $1 million into this round, with the balance being provided by private sector investors. As part of the due diligence process, New York Ventures staff and the external investment review committee evaluated the company's business plan and growth prospects, as well as the terms of the investment. As a result of the analysis, New York Ventures staff and the review committee have both agreed that the market opportunity and growth potential offered by this New York State company warrants an investment by the team and recommend its approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors on either of these 2 investments?
Hi, it's Eric Gertler. I was just curious on both investments. What is the valuations on each of those, both for the $500,000 investment for Electro and up to the $1 million investment in the second company?
Hi, Eric. This is John. The pre-money valuation on Eco Electro was $6 million, and they're raising 4, so post would be 10.
Got it.
Hi, Eric. For Wesper, it's a $35 million post-money cap for the safe.
Got it. And how much are they raising, you think, in that case?
Up to $4 million.
Up to $4 million. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to these items. I will now entertain a motion for the approval of item 4A, the investment in Eco Electro, Inc., as presented by Jonathan Green.
Michael Rosen moved.
Second.
Benson Martin, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. I will now entertain a motion for the approval of item 4B, the investment in Wesper, as presented by Momo B.
Michael Rosen moved.
Second.
Benson Martin, second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Toby J.C. Yassimi will now present the agenda item related to the World Trade Center Memorial and Cultural Program Land Use Improvement and Civic Project. Toby, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning, directors. My name is Toby Jaisimi, part of the Real Estate and Community Relations team here at ESD. The directors are being asked to take the following 3 actions: adopt modifications to the World Trade Center Memorial and Cultural Program, Land Use Improvement, and Civic Project Plan to allow for mixed-use development, including residential, fitness, and community facility space, in addition to the already approved commercial use. override applicable local zoning regulations to effectuate the proposed modifications, and authorize staff to hold a public hearing on the proposed modifications. It should be noted that these actions launch the public review and approvals process for the proposed modifications to the general project plan, and no final determinations are being made today. Before explaining the requested actions, I'd like to offer you some background on the World Trade Center general project plan and the project site. This GPP was originally adopted by the Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, LMDC, which is a subsidiary of ESD, in 2004 to provide for memorial and cultural uses as well as commercial redevelopment of the World Trade Center after the attacks on September 11. The plan provides for 5 commercial towers, public open space, and a performing arts center surrounding the memorial and museum sites. Site 5, the site of the 5th commercial tower, is located at 130 Liberty Street, which is the southernmost site of the World Trade Center campus and the location of the former Deutsche Bank building, which was severely damaged on 9/11. LMDC used HUD Community Development Block Grant funds to acquire, remediate, and clear Site 5. The GPP currently allows for commercial and/or hotel use on Site 5. In 2006, the Port Authority and LMDC entered into an MOU by which LMDC would swap 130 and 140 Liberty Street, including Site 5, with the Port Authority for property it owned at the center of the campus to enable the 9/11 Memorial and Museum, as well as the Performing Arts Center, to be built within and proximate to the footprints of the Twin Towers. In response to Community Board 1 input, LMDC began discussions with the Port Authority about the possibility of allowing for residential development at Site 5. A few years later, in 2019, LMDC and the Port Authority entered into another MOU to jointly issue an RFP for Site 5 that would allow for as-of-right commercial development or mixed-use development, including a requirement for an affordable housing component, which would require a modification to the GPP. In February of this year, after a competitive RFP process, a mixed-use development proposed by a team comprising Silverstein Properties, Brookfield Properties, Omni New York, and the Bar Development was conditionally designated by the LMDC directors. If the transaction is approved, ESD would own Site 5 and serve as landlord for the Site 5 long-term lease. Consistent with the planned swap, all rent payments would go to the Port Authority as compensation for the Memorial Museum and Performing Arts Center sites. Yesterday, LMDC's Board of Directors considered and voted to adopt the modified GPP, and based on an environmental assessment, determined that no supplemental environmental impact statement is needed pursuant to National Environmental Policy Act and State Environmental Quality Review Act, subject to public comments. Because of ESD's proposed role as owner and landlord, if a mixed-use project proceeds on Site 5, ESD's Board of Directors also are being asked to adopt the modified GPP. Please note, the board is not being asked to consider or approve the property transaction at this meeting. The proposed modifications to the GPP would permit either a commercial project or a mixed-use project on Site 5. Any specific transaction with a conditionally designated developer would require additional board action at a later date. Proposed design guidelines, which would govern mixed-use development at the site, have been included in your materials. As discussions continue with the public and with the designated developer, these design guidelines may be adjusted consistent with the ultimately approved project. Note that upon conditional designation, LMDC launched World Trade Center Site 5 Community Advisory Committee, which is comprised of elected officials and other local leaders and stakeholders, and began regularly presenting at the local Community Board 1 meetings. Feedback from the CAC and Community Board 1 has been instrumental in shaping multiple aspects of the proposed mixed-use project option, including the program, which would include affordable housing and a community facility, the design of the building, including ensuring that the program would be contextual with the adjacent Greenwich South neighborhood and the street frontage would be activated and community facing, maintenance and back-of house operations, including in-building loading, deliveries and garbage handling, and public access through and around the building, including connection to the adjacent Liberty Park. It is important to note that affordable housing has been a major discussion point over the last few months. The Site 5 RFP required that any mixed-use proposal comply with the affordability requirement of the city's mandatory inclusionary housing program. The proposed project would include approximately 1,200 residential units, and in consultation with the city, it was determined that 25% of the units, approximately 300 units, would be affordable to households making an average of 50% of area median income, which currently equates to $42,000 for an individual and scaling up to $60,000 for a family of four on an annual basis. Community representatives and elected officials have called for increased affordable housing, including some demands that the project be 100% affordable, with a preference for 9/11 victims and first responders. The project team is in ongoing discussions about these requests and will participate in an upcoming public forum being sponsored by the local elected officials on the issue. With board approval, LMDC, ESD, and the Port Authority will continue robust public engagement on the proposed project in the coming months. In addition to ongoing meetings with the CAC and CB1, as authorized by the directors, we will hold a public hearing anticipated to be January 12, 2022, followed by a public comment period, which we have agreed to hold open until February 15, 2022, at the request of local elected officials. Next spring, we will return to the directors for further consideration of the proposed modifications to the GPP and the proposed project. Today, as stated at the outset, the directors are being requested to take actions related to modifying the GPP to allow for residential, fitness, and community facility use at Site 5, in addition to the previously approved commercial use, to override certain local zoning regulations, and to allow a public hearing on the proposed modifications. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors on this item? As noted earlier, we received 10 comments from the public on this item, which were shared with the directors prior to today's meeting. These comments are also posted to today's meeting page on ESD's website, and they will also become a part of the corporate record of today's meeting. I will now entertain a motion for the approval of item 5A as presented by Toby J. Ayasimi.
Michael Rosen moved.
Second.
Benson Martin, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Emily Eklund will now present the Reimagine Workforce Preparation Grant Program item for our consideration. Emily, when you're ready, please begin.
Good morning. Thank you, Hope. Good morning, board. My name is Emily Eklund. I'm with NISTAR, which is part of the Small Business and Technology Development Group under Pravina. Today, I am requesting approval to establish grant disbursement agreements with 4 Reimagine Workforce Centers. At the April 22nd board meeting, we received approval to accept $3.2 million in funding from the New York State Department of Labor to provide entrepreneurship training to individuals displaced during the pandemic. Under this grant, $1,368,000 was earmarked to designate up to 4 Reimagine Workforce Centers. We held a competition in which 14 applications were received and 4 applicants were chosen to receive the designation. 2 centers are located in New York City, 1 in Buffalo and 1 in Potsdam, New York, up in the North Country. The chosen applicants have been outlined in the board materials. These centers are expected to provide services across the state and in the regions in which they were chosen. The Reimagine Workforce Centers will receive a total of $342,000 to deliver entrepreneur training and follow-up support to individuals looking to start a business as they re-engage in the economy. This grant ends August 31st, 2023. With board approval, we will move forward with grant disbursement agreements for the 4 Reimagine Workforce Center grantees. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 6A as presented by Emily Eklund? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Howard Zetsky, so moved.
Second.
I will second it, Cesar Perales.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next, Bet Yee will present the Entrepreneurship Assistance Center's multi-year grant item for our consideration. Bet, please begin when you're ready.
Yes, good morning, directors. Good morning, Hope. Congratulations. This is Bet Yee, Senior Director of the Entrepreneur Development and the Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers. The directors are being asked to approve year one of a multiple 3-year grant of up to $55,000 each to four additional entrepreneurship assistance centers to a total of $220,000. On July 24th, 2021, the directors approved year one of a 3-year grant to 19 EACs in the amount of $1,396,500 for grant contracts of $73,500 each, with the understanding that additional centers would be presented for approval at a later date. If approved, these 4 grants will commence on December 1 and end at the same time as the other preceding grants on June 30, 2022, that will conclude year one. These 4 EACs will complete the full complement of EACs available for year one. Renewal for years 2 and 3 are dependent on satisfactory performance of the preceding year. Funding will be from the 2021, 2022 FY 21-22 New York State budget appropriations for the EAC program, and will further ESD's statewide program to promote business startups and to help existing businesses to expand. These services are designed These services are designed on a working knowledge of the needs and resources of the community and its region, and are operated by community-based organizations with close ties to local residents, which enable them to adopt services to local needs and demands. Thank you for your time. I am happy to answer any questions.
We told Tiffany that a portion of the
Are there, excuse me, someone needs to mute their phone.
The funds will be drawn on December 1 and deposited into an ESC bank account. True?
Elaine?
Someone needs to mute their phone, please.
Elaine? I think it's Elaine.
Okay.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 7A as presented by Bet Yee? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
And then I'll just say Doug Carr and his team will arrange for the final cost to be paid.
Hello?
Elaine, if you can hear us, would you
Someone
please
needs
mute
to
your
mute
line?
their phone.
Yeah.
Okay, I will now entertain a motion for approval of the item presented by Bet Yee.
Benson Martin, so moved.
Second?
Howard, seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. I'd like to now turn things over to Goldie Wexel, who will provide a summary of the administrative actions on today's agenda before I call for a vote on those items. Goldie, would you please go ahead?
Yes, thank you, Hope, and good morning, directors. As a reminder, in order to help streamline our board meetings, we previously implemented an oral summary presentation process in connection with the administrative actions section of our agenda. You receive a full set of written descriptive materials for each of these items in your board materials as you have for this meeting, but rather than having individual oral presentations made on each one, I will provide a brief summary of the items. At the conclusion of the summary, we will then entertain any comments or questions the directors may have. As noted earlier, we did not receive any comments from the public on any of these items. Following my presentation and any questions, the acting chair will then call for a motion to approve the entire slate of administrative actions items 8A through 8M. The administrative action items submitted for your consideration today and for which you have received written materials are summarized as follows. Item 7A or 8A, I think, is the DRI Planning Services Contracts. This is a request for authorization for the corporation to enter into 14 consultant contracts for planning services in connection with Round 5 of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. As noted in the materials, 9 of these contracts will each be in the amount of $300,000. 4 of these contracts will each be for $600,000, and 1 contract will be for a total of $700,000. I'm going to address items 8B through I together. These 8 items are requests for authorization for the corporation to enter into 6 marketing and promotion services contracts and 2 research services contracts in connection with the New York dairy industry. The marketing and promotion services contracts will total $13,880,000, and the research service contracts will total $1,474,079. As a reminder, these marketing and research contracts are all fully funded through the Dairy Promotion Order Program and not with state funds. Item 8J is a consultant services contract amendment. The corporation is seeking to amend its contract with the Obertine Courier to add $150,000 for a new total contract amount not to exceed $550,000. The contractor is providing construction oversight services for the Cree project in Marcy, New York. The additional contract funds are needed as the construction schedule has been extended. Item 8K is a request to approve a payment to the Kenmore Town of Tonawanda Union Free School District in the amount of $844,498. The payment will offset a reduction in this year's revenue to the school district due to the closure of the Huntley Power Generating Facility in March 2016. Additionally, approval of this payment will bring total disbursements from the fund to approximately $38.7 million of the $140 million budgeted for the program. Item 8L is a request to approve an amendment of a contract with the Kevel Insurance Agency to continue providing insurance and risk assessment consulting services to ESD. This final amendment extends the contract through March 31st, 2022, and increases the current contract of $384,825 by $100,000 with a new proposed total contract amount of $484,825. Corporate funding will be the amendment's funding source. Lastly, 8M is a request to approve a third amendment to the terms of a 45-year lease between UDC and the Commercial Center, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary, between the Commercial Center, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of ESD, and the RDC, which is a subsidiary of the Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation, which operates a community services facility on Fulton Street in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. The City of New York receives all rent under the lease, and the city has requested that ESD amend the rent payment schedule for the remaining 3 years of the lease term in order to decrease the rent burden on the Restoration Center as it prepares to purchase the property at the end of the lease. I will now turn it back to our acting chair, who will call for any questions or comments you may have on any of these items before calling for a vote. We also have item-related staff on the line today as well to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Goldie. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on any of these 13 items? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to these items. I will now ask for a motion for the approval of items 8A through 8M as submitted on the written materials provided to the directors and summarized orally today.
Howard Zemsky, so moved.
Second,
Michael Rosen, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. The remaining item on today's agenda is provided for the directors for their information, and no presentation will be made. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I so move. Cesar Morales.
Thank you, everyone, for participation in today's meeting.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.